Hi everyone, my name is Jonathan Napitupulu and I'm from Batch 20 Corporate Communication. And today I will present my thesis between criticism and risk, the impact of the ITE law on freedom of expressions of the Indonesian diaspora in Belgium. This research explores how the ITE law impacts the Indonesian diaspora's freedoms of expressions, particularly in Belgium. As we know, whereabouts more than 100,000 Indonesians living in here, this country, Belgium, where I'm standing right now. As I already talked about briefly before about my thesis between criticism and risk, the impact of the IT law on freedom of expression of the Indonesian diaspora in Belgium. And for the background of the study, as you can see, I narrowed down as a four entities. The first one is no viral, no justice. Phenomenon reflects public distrust in Indonesia's legal system. Diaspora abroad use social media for advocacy, raising issues like infrastructure and governance. And the third, the IT law often used to criminalize dissent and criticism. And the last, despite living under Belgian legal protection, diaspora in Belgium self-censored due to fear of legal repercussions from Indonesia. So this background, as recently as we see or we witness the phenomenon in Indonesia, no viral, no justice. And it highlighting as the public rely on social media to gain quick response from authorities. Let's take a look at sample I put in this word. An incident, notable incident from the Indonesian diaspora, student living in Australia named Bima Yudo, who is criticized the infrastructure in his hometown in Lampung. After that, it got backlash and raising international concern, attention, and debate. And in the end, he faced legal threats under UU ITE. This underscores significant concern about freedom of expressions being curtailed by this law. And for research problem, yes. And my research specifically addresses two key issues. The first is how does the Indonesian diaspora in Belgium perceive the impact of the ITE law on their freedom of expression? For example, me as Indonesian citizen living in Belgium and everyday, daily basis, I always like very carefully how to open my statements towards Indonesian government. I always thought, is this statement is really clear enough, neutral enough, or if it's really bad opinion towards the government in Indonesia. And the second is, what communication strategies are used to maintain expression while avoiding legal consequences? And this is how we have to know on my research problem. I also get two objectives on this work. The first is analyze the influence of the UU ITE on freedom of expression among Indonesian diaspora in Belgium. So it's specifically here in Belgium. And the second, explore adaptive strategies employed by diaspora to navigate legal uncertainties in digital communication. So this is we have to explore how we handle, how we have to communicate in this digital era towards social media, towards online article, everything open critics towards government or even like a not even government or even your neighbors in Indonesia, and not to worry about you get backlash or threats under this UU ITE law. And for the significance of study, I get to also, the first is enrich academic understanding of transnational communication under restrictive legal frameworks. And the second, practical, how we have to do it in daily basis, informs policy revisions and enhances digital literacy among diaspora. Like me in here again, among Indonesian citizens in here, or me and my Indonesian friends in Belgium, what we're gonna do it, what we're gonna talk in a daily basis, not to feel threatened and, like some communities get offended and sensitive enough about what we posted, what we talk about it towards the community. And for scope and delimitation, The scope, I focus on online expression on the Indonesian diaspora in Belgium, as I already mentioned before and explain a little bit about it. And the limitation is the opposite of it, to exclude offline expression and diaspora in other countries, because I live in here in Belgium, so I don't want to widen up in the other countries because it could be biased. For theoretical framework, I use freedom of expression theory, public space theory, media theory, and strategic communication theory. Why I use these theories? It is providing a foundation for analyzing how online platforms function as a public space and examining how legal constraints affects communication strategies. And also the strategic communication theory, it helps identify how the Indonesian diaspora members maintain their voice while managing legal risks. Okay, for the research methodology, and as you can see, the first is descriptive, qualitative, Newman. The second is techniques, in-depth interview and document analysis. The third analyzes Miles and Huberman's model, data reduction, display verification, and so on. And yes, in this work, I employed a qualitative approach as it's conducting in-depth interview with members of the Indonesian diaspora in Belgium. In this work, I collected 4 key informants with diverse background, including legal experts, Indonesian diaspora who lives in here, a student, policy officers, and a housewife, as I believe provided rich and nuanced insights. But of course, additionally, I collected secondary data from legal documents, journal academics, books, and sources that complemented these interviews. So yes, for the participants, I already mentioned before, I collected the interviews from a legal consultant in Brussels, a student at KU Leuven University, the United Nations UNEP policy officer, and the last, a housewife and a student in a Ghent University. So yes, here's the comments from one of my participants for this work about the UU ITE, and she is a legal officer living in Belgium.
Hello, my name is Abel and I'm an Indonesian living in Brussels, Belgium. I work here. I would like to share my opinion on freedom of expression in Indonesia to the Indonesian government as an Indonesian diaspora living abroad. It's quite frightening for me right now to express any criticism to the government due to this thing called Undang-Undang ITE. And then after that, his family got a visit from the police. Yeah, they said that the video, it violates Undang-Undang ITE. I'm actually quite afraid to express my opinion, my criticism, my constructive feedback. I mean, I'm far away from here, so I don't think the Indonesian government can do much to process me under Undang-Undang ITE, but I fear for my family's safety. Instead of silencing these people, they should really listen to it and take it into account when they are making policies.
So yes, from the 2 slides before, as I already explained and mentioned about briefly about the participants and how I collected the data, the interviews, this is the data verification and analysis. The first is triangulation using interviews, documents, and literature. As I collected all the participants, asked them, interviewed them, collected the documents and literature as a book, journal academic, and all the sources that complemented on this work. And the second is data validated through cross-checks and participant feedback, as I have to recheck again, I have to collect all the interview again, I ask the participants if they are okay with it, if they're really satisfied with the cross-check, with the feedback, with the result of the interviews, or if they want to add it more or like censor a little bit or cut it in and out or so on. The last is ensures reliability and robustness of results. That's why all of this data verification, all of this data informants, participants, documents, whatsoever, so on. And once it's already cross-checked and the feedback is good, the feedback is fits to the works and research, that's the time how we see the results, how it's balanced with the results. So we're getting closer. Expected outcomes. The first, greater understanding of how UUITE shapes diaspora communication behaviors. This is the thing. This ETLO shapes the way we communicate. And we have to be careful to talk. We have to be careful to open our critics on public social media. And to be honest, my brain subconsciously always active if it comes to talk about Indonesia. So I have to think twice not to talk about this particular issue. Also, a little bit scared if I say something, it will backlash towards my family back home, or I don't know, maybe my neighbors will knock the door of my family or my parents, like saying, your son said something, blah, 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 you know. And this is why we have to see the outcomes. The second, identification of diaspora strategies, digital activism, content modulation, private forums. So these are the outcomes. The more people, the more Indonesian diaspora in Belgium, more speak up. It's called digital activism. Talk about this to raise up the awareness about this. And content modulation, it's more and more open critics and giving a knowledge and give informations more, and the private forums for as well. For example, me and my close friends, Indonesian friends in here, we talk about it, we give the insights about it, and give more information to each other. And the last is recommendation for legal reform and community support. That's the last we needed. And as I mentioned also in this work, like how to reshape it again, how we have to back to normal. We talk about it. It's not like you gonna talk about crazy things about your government, but it's always like cross checks and fact and fully noted what you're gonna talk about, what you're gonna open the critics about towards the government. It's not like you blasted them without facts. This is, we need the community support and legal reform, maybe to smooth it down, maybe to low it down, not to be crazy, not to be, So yes, that's the expected outcomes. So again, we're getting closer. Conclusion and recommendation. UITE instills self-censorship even outside Indonesia's border. Second, strategic context-aware communication is vital for diaspora voices. The last, calls for clearer jurisdictional boundaries and legal safeguards. In this conclusion, this research underscores the complexity faced by the Indonesian diaspora in Belgium. And the ITE law significantly restricts through perceived extraterritorial legal threats and prompting strategic adaptation in digital communication. For recommendations include clearer guidelines for extraterritorial application of UUITE. It's increased legal education for diaspora community and advocacy for policy revisions focusing restorative justice and protection of digital expression. So yes, these steps are safeguarding for diaspora members' rights without compromising lawful regulations. And yes, thank you for your attention, and I hope this research aims to contribute meaningfully to ongoing discussion about freedom of expression, legal protection, and the global impact of national law. So yes, thank you for your attention about my presentation, and I'm grateful and thankful to all of you, to all the panelists, and also to my guidance counselor, Parino. Thank you so much. And yes, of course, I welcome any question, any discussions, opinions, and insights for this work to make it better. And yes, good luck to all of my fellow students as well. And I hope to see all of you at the graduation. Bye bye.